Stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Council Member Josh Stites.
Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to serve and lead this great city and this greatest country on earth. Lord, we pray that our lives would be a reflection of the things that are good and things that you desire, that we would act justly, that we would love mercy, and that we would walk humbly with you. God, we pray for the prosperity of our city. And as we debate and disagree, God, we pray that you'd give us the wisdom to see beyond the differences, to recognize the commonalities that we all share and the things that unite us. God, we thank you for the men and women who, throughout generations, have offered to make the highest sacrifice that we might live free, and that we might debate these things, and that we might govern ourselves. God, for those of us who claim to be yours, may our lives be marked by a generosity of love towards each other. And for those, God, who may be skeptical of you because of our interactions, Lord, we pray that you'd extend to them your grace, that they may come to know you despite us. Father, tonight we especially want to ask your blessing and your protection on the people in Venezuela and Ukraine and Syria. And God, all around the world, people are hurting, and people need you and need the comfort that can only come through you. So, Father, we pray your blessing on those situations. Lord, thank you most of all for your Son, Jesus, and the sacrifice that he has made. And it's in his name that we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our February 18th meeting? We have a motion and a second. Without objection, the minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Thank you. Need to ask everyone in the chamber to find a seat, please. We don't have any presentations. We're not doing. Okay, Councilmember Stites. Rules Committee report, please.
I'm sorry. The Rules Committee voted to recommend approval to Mr. Michael Porter for the Gas and Mechanical Board, 5-4-0 against. And for the Sports Authority, voted in the same 5-4-0 against for the reappointment of Ms. Kathy Bender, Mr. Rip Ryman, Mr. Dudley West, and Ms. Christy Wilson. Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. Michael Porter, Kathy Bender, former council member Rip Ryman, Dudley West, and Christy Wilson. On behalf of the entire Metropolitan Council, thank you for your willingness to donate your time and your expertise to our great city. Thank you. We're now at bills on public hearing. The first one is BL 2013-622, changes 5.5 acres from R15 to IWD zoning for a portion of property located at 2487 Pulley Road. Councilmember Johnson.
I move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you are in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Anyone in support wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern. State your name and address, please.
Madam Vice Vice Mayor Sean Henry, 315 Dedrick Street, representing the property owner Crown Enterprises. Crown has been in the business here for about 50 years. 4,000 employees worldwide is what Central Transport uses throughout the country to move freight. This is a trucking terminal, and despite the caption referencing Pulley Road, the sole access for this trucking facility is off of Couchville Pike. They've been at that location since 1991, and they employ about 225 people. This expansion, this rezoning will allow the expansion and renovation of that existing facility, and it'll end up employing about 50 additional people. Last fall, my client began by reaching out to adjacent property owners door to door, communicating their interest in expanding this facility, and that was followed up by 2 community meetings, one in November and one in January earlier this year. So this application has been endorsed and recommended by the Planning Commission as consistent with the land use policy. We ask that this council approve it on second reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Daniel Onifer. I'm with Crown Enterprises, and we have owned this property since 1991, and our tenant since that time has been Central Transport, which is a related company of ours. And we own facilities nationwide in support of mainly the trucking industry. And this is a strategic property for us. We've owned it since '91. We've expanded the property to its limits at this point. And since purchasing it, we've acquired approximately 6 acres directly to the north that we currently have plans to expand onto. That property is currently zoned IWD, but it still isn't sufficient. Our Central Transport sister company is further expanding. Last fall, we purchased Vitran Express, their American interest, and that has substantially increased the capacity of Central Transport. And this property is a strategic part of that expansion, and this further rezoning of additional property will support the expansion that we currently have designed for this property.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern.
My name is Roger Stevens. I live at 2505 Pulley Road, which is in connection with this property. A lot of my concern is what they're going to do about stormwater. It at first was with the noise, but the state has come in and stopped them from coming all the way up against my property, which works out better. But I am wondering what they're going to do with stormwater, because everything that runs off out there goes into McCory Creek. Every bit of their property will dump whatever comes off of their property, for contention ponds or whatever, eventually is going to go into McCory Creek. There are no sewers in that area, so I wonder what they're going to do. Wilson Sporting Goods Supply is next door. I wonder, what else is going to happen to the stormwater system in that area. Airport's already dumping a whole lot of theirs into McCory Creek. We have an old city dump out there that airport moved when they done the last expansion on the runway. Anything that runs out of that dump runs into McCory Creek. McCory Creek eventually goes into Stones River and then into the Cumberland. So that's my main concern, is what they're going to do with the stormwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
I have a motion and a second.
We have had 2 community meetings on this project, and Mr. Onifer, the president, has graciously flown down 3 times and has gone door to door and met with many, if not all, of the neighbors along the Couchville Pike, Pleasant Hill, Pulley Road area. And because of their efforts in ensuring that all of the concerns that were expressed at the initial first meeting were addressed, I think that what they have done to go above and beyond to ensure that this project is a win-win for both the company and the community, I think this is something that we can all live with in the community. Mr. Stevenson definitely has some valid concerns, and I shared with him and a couple of his neighbors that we will try to work out providing the information from stormwater prior to the final and third reading. So with that, I ask for your approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-651 amends the Metro Zoning Code pertaining to the regulation of temporary music events. Councilmember Allen.
I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. The goal of this bill is to create an opportunity for outdoor music events in certain commercial areas where they're not currently available. I just want to make sure that people understand it does not affect the downtown code area or the Gulch or any events that are already permitted by Metro Parks, like Live on the Green, or the kind of street parties that is permitted by Public Works when they close the street. Our existing noise ordinance that's found in Section 11 of the Metro Code states that it is unlawful to operate any sound amplification equipment so as to create sounds that are plainly audible from the boundary line of the nearest residentially occupied property. This is good protection for neighbors on an ongoing basis, but it doesn't allow any leeway for special events. Currently, an event can be permitted in a public park or on a street closing, but not on commercial property. This proposed bill would not change the way the process works for parks or for streets, but it would allow commercial properties to apply for permits on a limited basis to hold limited number of musical events on their property with conditions that would guide sound level, hours of operation, and notification of neighbors. The current version of this bill was written after input from Metro Public Works, codes, police, planning, neighborhood representatives, small business owners, music industry personnel, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I've worked to address the concerns of the planning staff, and I believe that the current version deals with issues discussed with the Planning Commission. The bill does not make it harder to make music in Music City, but rather opens up the possibility to smaller commercial areas that are currently limited because of their proximity to residential areas. That would include many popular destinations around Nashville like 12 South, Hillsborough Village, Sylvan Park, East Nashville, Jefferson Street, Germantown, and Hip Donaldson, just to name a few. The possibility would be balanced with reasonable protections for the residents, and it works within Metro processes that are already in place. I believe this is good for Music City, and I ask for your support.
Is there a second substitute that needs to be made?
There is a second substitute, which is the one that's included. I would move the second substitute.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes.
So I move the bill as secondly substituted.
We had a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Order, please. BL 2014-653 amends the Metro Zoning Code to clarify that historic home events must be inside a historically significant structure. Councilmember Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do not want to have a public hearing, and my motion would be to move this indefinitely and just with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second for indefinite deferral.
It's rare that I get any chance to say anything, so I won't say too much, especially when I'm sitting between two Vanderbilt fans, so I'll just better picture it.
We have a motion and a second for indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-673 makes applicable the provisions of the Neighborhood Landmark Overlay District to 17.22 acres of various properties along Gallatin Pike between Virginia Avenue and Broadmoor Drive. Councilmember Bennett.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, I was temporarily blinded.
But I would like to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Bennett.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-674 makes applicable the provisions of a historic bed and breakfast overlay district to .34 acres of the property located at 754 Bennett Avenue. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I move to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Anyone in support wishing to speak, please line up at the lectern.
Hey guys, my name is Autumn Andrade, and my husband and I have spent so much time and energy and so much money renovating this historic home. It happens to be the oldest home in historic Woodland and Waverly, and it's a huge home that needs to be shared. And so our goal is to turn it into a bed and breakfast, not just for you guys, but for your friends and family. It's so nice, it's so wonderful, and we cannot tell you how excited we are to make that a landmark again in that neighborhood.
I'll just add in my 2 cents as well. So this is a great time of change in Nashville.
Excuse me, please state your name and address.
Jerry Andrade, I'm 754 Benton Avenue, the location of the bed and breakfast. So there are a lot of great projects going on in Nashville that I'm sure the council is well aware of. A lot of residential developments are taking place. The city's moving forward. This is a great opportunity with this bed and breakfast for us to recognize part of the history of Nashville and spend time and effort and money in restoring something to remember what Nashville was. This is a historic community that's on the National Register of Historic Places, and this is the oldest home within that community. We've taken a great deal of effort, as my wife said, to restore it to its historic glory, and we're looking for that to be supported so it can be shared with not just other members of Nashville, but all our visitors throughout the country, so they can stay at some of our more modern places and see Nashville grow up, but they can still remember what Nashville once was. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Betty Horton, and I live at 726 Benton Avenue, a few doors east of their wonderful house that they're renovating. We've renovated several houses ourselves, and we really welcome them to do this in our neighborhood. It's so pretty to come in from 8th Avenue to see that all what was deteriorating now all wonderful. We used to be innkeepers ourselves, so we know what it's like to visit with the people who come to your town. The travel dollar turns over 5 times. You've probably heard that, but people really like bed and breakfast because they can visit, get the culture, and so forth. So we really are excited and enthusiastic about their being there, and we like it a lot. So what we don't like is SP zoning. Thank you.
Hi, Pete Horton. Again, we're 4 doors down, and when we first moved to the neighborhood, that particular property was a daycare center. And we love kids, and we, in a past life, run a day child care service ourselves. But there's like 20, 30 cars coming a day in, doing a U-turn, going out, kids walking around during the day. It was great. Then it sat idle for a long time, and just recently the Andrades bought it and done a wonderful job of renovating it. It sits on a hill overlooking the Subway restaurant, Douglas Corner music venue, and across the street, Zanies. To the left are residential Benton Avenue. This will give a great eyes on the street venue coming into the neighborhood. Every time there's a B&B, There's every effort made to keep the outside premises looking great. There's people there during the day, people coming and going, and it's really a scary situation for people who would do mischief if they think there's people coming and going and lots of time to look around and so forth. And we enjoy the guests. They walk up the street, and if I'm working in the yard, we end up talking and so forth. So we really welcome that, and our neighborhood has no other public places except the Demumbrian House, and this will give us an additional place that we could have neighborhood meetings. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Those in opposition, please line up at the lectern.
I'm Henry Walker, 744 Benton Avenue, and my friend Jerry forgot to say one thing. May I take 15 seconds?
No, sir.
Well, here's why it's important. I was opposed to this until Jerry and Autumn said, we have no intention of turning this into an historic event location. All we want is a bed and breakfast. We've had enough problems in our neighborhood with a historic event location. I'm next door to the Demumbrian House. Jerry's house is on the other side. So Jerry said that as he said to the Planning Commission, and as he said in our neighborhood meeting, they have no intention of turning this into an historic event location. And he meant to say that tonight, but he forgot.
Well, thank you for saying it.
Okay. Based on that, I have no opposition to this. I heartily endorse it.
I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Moore.
With that being said, Vice Mayor, I'm just going to move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-675 changes 3.74 acres from IR to MUG zoning for property located at 30 Oldham Street. Councilmember Scott Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second, Councilman.
Several years ago, when young man in front of me, Councilman Tim Garrett, was a young man. This area was kind of I would say a sore thumb at that time. And I know that when Councilman Garrett was our state representative in the area, he did a great job in cleaning up some of the riffraff over there. And I just want to thank him for that. This is a historic moment because this starts the revitalization of that area and that riverfront area in my district with this building and with its commercial use at the bottom and its residential at the top. And I just want to thank planning for their hard work. And I also want to thank the investor for believing in that area. And I want to thank the mayor's office for their help in getting this project going forward. And with that, I'd like to move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-676 changes .14 acres from CN to R6 zoning for property located at 1421 9th Avenue North. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-677 changes .60 acres from MUNA to RS10 zoning for properties located at 2212 and 2216 Riverside Drive. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-678 changes 2.63 acres from IR to SP zoning for properties located at 1102, 1138 3rd Avenue North, and 1121 2nd Avenue North to permit a mixed-use development. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-679 changes .21 acres from R6 to RS3.75 for property located at 1310 Fatherland Street. Councilmember Westerholm.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Westerholm.
I would move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-680 changes 39.54 acres from R10, RS10, and RS20 to SP for properties located at 726 Old Hickory Boulevard and Boyd's Hilltop Drive unnumbered to permit up to 130-bed assisted living facility along with an existing religious institution and its associated uses and facilities. And without objection, we can take 681. It cancels the residential plan unit development overlay district for 14.59 acres and amends the remaining 16.45 acres located at Boyd's Hilltop Drive unnumbered, Nesbitt Lane unnumbered to permit 35 single-family lots, replacing 78 single-family lots. Councilmember Bennett.
Open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Bennett.
Move approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of 680 and 681, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-682 makes applicable the provisions of the Clayton Avenue Urban Design Overlay to 21.27 acres of various properties located on Clayton Avenue, Craig Avenue, and Leland Lane. Councilmember Moore.
I move to open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Anyone in opposition, please raise your hand. Seeing no one in opposition, does anyone in support wish to speak? Please come to the lectern and state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Casey and I live at 950 Clayton Avenue. I'll keep this brief, but I wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of Clayton Avenue neighbors to thank Council Lady Sandra Moore for agreeing to support us in our effort to develop and adopt the Clayton Avenue Urban Design Overlay. I would also like to thank Metro Council for considering our proposal and allowing us this time to express our views. Clayton Avenue is a beautiful, mature, family-oriented street forming one edge of the resurgent Sunnyside neighborhood. Most homes on our street were built in the 1940s and 50s and consist of 1- and 2-story cottages and bungalows. Several lots over the past 3 years have been bought, the original homes torn down, and new duplexes put up. Several of these structures have been successfully integrated into the neighborhood, but more recent development has varied greatly from the existing character of our street. Over the past 8 months, we have come together collectively to work on this UDO. We have proposed new standards for foundation height, overall height, as well as street and side setback. Additionally, we chose to eliminate front facade garages. After reaching out to all Clayton Avenue residents through mailings, 3 neighborhood meetings, and numerous face-to-face encounters, we received no negative feedback. We believe our UDO is a reasonable compromise between the opportunity to develop and the desire to maintain those features that make Clayton Avenue an appealing and desirable address for those that have built their lives there. We ask that you vote to approve this UDO. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Moore.
I'm going to move for approval, and I do have a comment, Vice Mayor.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember.
It was very refreshing to have these neighbors to come together to at least agree on what their vision was for their neighborhood. They're very invested in this neighborhood, and they, started this project last year, and they had several meetings. So again, to hear neighbors come together, at least come to agree to, work on this UDO was a relief. I move for approval again.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-683 changes 6.65 acres from AR2A to RS15 zoning for property located at 6541 Redmond Lane. Councilmember Banks.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Neighbors, I'd like to move indefinite deferral.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-684 amends the Metro Zoning Code to modify the definition and conditions of accessory dwelling detached. Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, please open the public hearing.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Thank you. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. No one is in opposition. Do you wish to speak in support? I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hunt.
Move for approval, please.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-685 amends the Metro Zoning Code to modify the general requirements of public notice signs. Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, open the public hearing, please.
Please raise your hand if you're in support. Please raise your hand if you're in opposition. Seeing no one on either side, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hunt.
Madam President, I'd like to move Bill 685 deferred for one meeting, please.
We have a motion to defer one meeting and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
We're now at bills on the consent agenda. I will read the ones that are on consent. You can let me know if any need to be pulled. We have one that is not on the consent agenda that we will deal with after that, and then we have a late filed resolution that we will deal with at the end of resolutions. RS 2014-999 and 1005, 1006, 1007, 1008, 1009, 1010, 1011, and 1012 are on the consent agenda. 999 approves a grant from the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to the Metro Water Services to construct and operate, a boat dock to be located at the Hundra Water Treatment Plant. 1005 approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development to the Nashville Career Advancement Center to establish programs to serve out-of-school and older youth through the Youth Work Program. 1006 authorizes the Department of Law to settle the personal injury claim of Pam McCamey against Metro government in the amount of $8,830. 1007 approves the election of notaries public for Davidson County. 1008 sets a public hearing for proposed amendments to the Arts Center, Capitol Mall, Jefferson Street, and Rutledge Hill redevelopment plans. 1009 recognizes Sandra Rennell Darden Taylor on the occasion of her retirement. 1010 recognizes Guy Brown as being selected as the 2013 National Supplier of the Year. 1011 recognizes Derek Mason as the new head football coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores. And 1012 recognizes Keep America Beautiful, Great American Cleanup, and designates March, April, and May 2014 as the Great American Cleanup months in Metro Nashville. Do any of those need to be pulled? I will need committee reports. Councilmember Stein.
Budget and Finance approved 999, 1005, 1006, 84, none against.
Councilmember Westerholm.
Personnel approved Resolution 2014-1005, 540 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Federal Grants Review Committee voted to approve 540 against.
And Councilmember Stites.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rules and Confirmations voted to approve 1007, 1009, 10, 11, and 12, 540 against, and RS 2014-1013, 4, and 1 abstaining. And I move approval of the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. The one that is not on consent is RS 2014-1013, supports the creation of a presidential youth council. Councilmember Stein. Try again.
Move approval with a brief comment.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Members of the council, this resolution, memorializing resolution, was brought to us from the Mayor's Youth Council, and in the Rules Committee, 2 young people from the Mayor's Youth Council, Israel Munoz and Madison Cuthbertson, were very articulate to the committee on the merits of this. Both of them are public school students in Nashville. This is a memorializing resolution that calls on using our Nashville model on a national level and would be funded privately, and I commend the Youth Council for their activism and ask council members to join me in unanimously approving their recommendation to us.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Councilmember Evans, you have a late filed resolution. What is the nature of the emergency?
Mr. Cooper, would you please explain the nature of the emergency?
Yes, this issue was brought to light after the filing deadline for this meeting, and the 2 committees in the State House and Senate will be considering this or are scheduled to consider this matter before the council meets again.
Thank you, Mr.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, Councilmember Evans.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Stites.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We voted to, the Rules and Confirmations voted to approve 540 against.
Okay. Convention and Tourism, I think.
Thank you. It's not on my notes.
Okay.
Councilmember Garrett.
Convention and Tourism approved 9-0, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. This memorializing resolution, for those of you who haven't been focused on the issue, is meant to is addressed to the General Assembly regarding some pending legislation that would permit to-go cups in the Central Business District. That's the way the legislation is written. The issue is brought to our attention by Brenda and Rubel Sanderson, who I think many of you know as outstanding supporters of tourism in this city and have been downtown for many, many years, and were kind enough to come to committee today to talk a little bit about what their concerns were. Since hearing from Brenda and Rubel Sanderson, I've also heard from some of the largest hotels in the city about their concerns, which boil down to this. To allow Nashville is a family destination. People come here because they feel really comfortable with their families, taking them out, hear music. It's safe, it's comfortable. I took my kids in to hear music starting at a very young age. You feel really good about it. And as Brenda Sanderson put it this morning, to-go cups to allow people to leave a bar or a restaurant and go into another bar or a restaurant with a, as Councilman Hunt referred to them earlier today, sippy cups. We're now calling it the sippy cup bill, is a change in the culture. It becomes an adult-only environment, and it becomes a certain kind of adult-only environment. Councilman Perdue shared with me some of his experience when you have that kind of mix. Now, I'm sure there are going to be people that say this is enabling legislation only. We don't need to worry about it. It has to come to the council anyway, and we don't want the state to meddle in our business. We shouldn't meddle in theirs. Well, the first thing I'm going to say to you is if we stop meddling in their business, they are not going to stop meddling in ours. That's the first thing. The second thing is, just because something is enabling legislation, I don't care what the subject matter is, it doesn't make it good. And if the state of Tennessee is going to pass legislation, I presume they're going to pass it because it's a good idea. And just because it's enabling doesn't make it good. Back in the old days, enabling legislation used to work like this. This body, this mayor, we would identify things that we needed enabled. And we would send somebody up to the Hill and we'd say, hey, need a little help with this. And they would say, oh, okay, yeah. It's not supposed to work the other way around, where they go, oh, you know what you really need? You really need to-go cups in your downtown neighborhoods. So, so enabling legislation, by passing this bill, you do a couple of things. One, you communicate to the state, hey, we need to have all the stakeholders involved. Two, you communicate, hey, this is not a good bill. Go work on it some more. And once and they'll spend some time on it. And lastly, and my final point is, I got interested in this because I have, well, 2 teenagers and one 20-year-old. And I think I've done a pretty good job of raising them, I hope. And I tell them places that are safe places and situations that are safe places, and I've taught them that. I don't want to have to say to them, don't go downtown. I don't ever want to have to say that. Okay, so I've asked for your vote tonight. A lot of you have signed on. If I've missed anybody, please, Elise has got the bill, and join us. Thank you.
Councilmember Stikes, did you wish to speak? Okay, Councilmember Stein.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I don't think I'm for the subject matter of the legislation, but the one thing I'm always for is this body's ability to make decisions about Nashville and Davidson County. And I am one of the loudest complainers when the state is doing things to take away that authority. The notion that this issue, whether it's a good one or a bad one, doesn't come before us to make the determination, I think is a disservice to the entire county. I have great confidence in this body's ability to make a decision. So in this instance, we're going to say to the state, no, we can't make an appropriate decision if you give us the power to make it. I have much greater confidence in our ability to deal with the issues. So for that reason, I don't think I'm ever going to be against the state giving this body greater power to make decisions about our county. And for that reason, even though I think that I have not heard a substantive reason why we should have open containers, if we're going to discuss it, I wish we were doing it here. I do understand the bill at the state is going to be substantially changed. I think there's some issue about the Omni and the Country Music Hall of Fame and going from one to the other, but I don't know that. But I would argue that whatever the merits are of this, it ought to be here, and unbelievably, if they want to give us the authority to do something we don't already have, I would hate to ever discourage the state from doing that. Excuse me, I apologize for choking. So for that reason, I'm going to vote no on this.
Councilmember Garrett, did you wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, I was just asking the sponsor and whatnot, the reason that, and I'm having been involved in this on both ends and whatnot, the reason that this was here is that this was asked by Representative Jernigan. And I would reaffirm, if Ms. Council Lady Evans would like to affirm that it was actually asked by the representative up there for us to make a recommendation on this.
Council Member Claiborne?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a comment in reference to one of just made by the colleague. It would seem to me, when I look at the number of signatures that are on this measure, that we are, in essence, making a decision at this point in time that this is not good for our city.
Councilmember Gilmore?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to speak briefly. I did not sign on to the legislation. I am for memorializing resolutions. I shared that I had not received any feedback from the downtown constituents. Additionally, because it is enabling legislation, I would take up the matter more when it comes before the city and hope that it can be fleshed out. Because the Convention Visitors Bureau did ask for this legislation, and I just haven't heard from other people. I just wanted it, when it came back to the city, when we have that authority to make the decision then, and perhaps we have more conversation about it. Thank you.
Councilmember Duval?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Council Lady Evans has been too kind in her verbiage. I'm going to say I grew up in an area where they had these carry cups. And when the bar would close, they would stand there at the front door with these paper cups and pour your beer or your liquor or whatever you had into it and send you out the door. And that can happen under this ordinance. And then they're going to get in their car and they're going to go home and they're going to have this cup with them. I think all we're doing is setting ourselves up for the same thing that happened out at Starwood years ago when we started having all of these huge major accidents because people had consumed too much alcohol. This is a bad law, and I will be on the Hill tomorrow lobbying those that I know to stop this at the state level so it never comes to Metro, so we have to make that decision. But I wholeheartedly support Council Lady Evans and her effort, and I want to thank you so much for stepping up and offering this memorializing resolution. Usually I think they're a waste of time, but this is one time it is not. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. And we will need a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
I have 34, 3 against, 3 abstentions.
Motion passes. We're now at bills on second reading. First reading. Is there a motion for approval of motion and a second? None need to be pulled. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Now we're at bills on second reading. BL 2012-302 amends 3.46 acres of the Nashville Village Planned Unit Development Overlay District for property located at Nashville Boulevard unnumbered to permit neighborhood retail uses not to exceed 1 story where 27,000 square feet of commercial uses was previously approved. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Neighbors. I move to defer by rule to the April public hearing.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-569 amends the Metro Zoning Code pertaining to certain automobile-related uses. Councilmember Bedney.
Thank you. We don't need a report, right? We do. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning, Zoning, Historic Committee voted to defer Bill 6569 indefinitely, 6-0.
Thank you. Councilmember Bedney.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the committee for heeding to my request of deferring this indefinitely. In my conversations with the planning department, it became apparent that a better solution would be to work on a UDO for the area. So we are going to defer this indefinitely while we start working on creating a UDO. So I request that for the vote for indefinite deferral. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-659 changes 4.1 acres from IR to SP zoning for property located at 1200 49th Avenue North to permit up to 55 residential dwelling units. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you, Madam President. The Planning and Zoning Historic Commission approved 659, 640 against.
Thank you, Councilmember Baker.
Move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-663 declares surplus and approves the disposition of the former Jerry Baxter Middle School property located at 3515 Gallatin Pike. Councilmember Bennett.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Thank you. The Planning and Zoning Committee voted at the request of the sponsor to vote 6-0 to withdraw.
Councilmember Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. At the request of the sponsor, Education Committee also voted to withdraw 6-0.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget voted to withdraw 8-4, none against.
Councilmember Bennett.
Motion to withdraw with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember.
This is going to require a little bit more administrative discussions to wrap this up. We will be back with a new bill and excited to see what's going to happen over at the old Jerry Baxter Middle School. So don't fret, it's coming back. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-686 authorizes the Director of Public Property to accept 2 parcels of property from the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency for the construction of the West Riverfront Park improvements and amphitheater. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and Zoning approved Bill 686, 6-0.
Councilmember Garrett.
Convention and Tourism approved 6-0, ma'am.
Councilmember Tigert.
Parks and Library approved 3-0.
Councilmember Stein.
Budget approved 8-4, none against.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. Move for approval with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Councilmember.
I'm very excited about this acquisition of land to develop downtown. I believe it brings a certain amount of activation that's much needed. I grew up in Nashville, and for many years there has been nothing to do downtown when you come to the waterfront. So it's nice to know now that we will have all these different developments and activities to do. So with that, I renew my motion to move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-687 designates specified areas of downtown Nashville as a temporary special event zone during the time period beginning at 6:00 a.m. on Wednesday, April the 2nd, 2014, and ending at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, April the 9th, 2014, for the 2014 National Collegiate Athletic Association Women's Final Four basketball tournament and related activities and events. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Garrett.
Convention and Tourism approved 7-0, ma'am.
Councilmember Moore.
Coach Fair and Farmers Market, 7-4, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second.
Thank you. I'm so excited about this, and I would like to thank you, Vice Mayor, for your leadership over the many years for the NCAA. And also, I just think it's exciting with women's sports and just all the activities that will be going on for this week. There are 3 games, but what I'm really excited about is all the free activities for young people to get them involved in movement and basketball and clinics and journalism, and the impact that it will have, at least a minimum of $20 million impact on our city at minimum. So I think that's really exciting. So with that, I renew my motion for approval.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-688 approves agreements between Metro Government and the Metro Hospital Authority and several private entities for the privatization and continued operation of the Bordeaux Long-Term Care and the J.B. Knowles Home Facilities. Councilmember Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
1 second. Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved Bill 688, 640 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Stein.
Budget and Finance approved as amended, 10-4, none against.
Councilmember Maynard.
Health and Hospitals approved as amended, 7-4, 2 against, and 1 abstention.
Okay, Councilmember Maynard.
With that, I'd like to move the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment.
Mr. Cooper, if you would explain, it's just a house cleaning amendment.
The amendment makes some technical corrections to the contracts, including the retention of an easement, and substitutes all of the agreements with the final agreements and that have now been executed by all parties.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment. I have some lights on. Is it on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilmember Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Now I'd like to move as amended with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As you all know, that General Hospital and Knowles and Bordeaux have been very dear to my heart, something I've been passionate about and a champion for over the last 6 years since I've been on the council, serving in healthcare as a healthcare lawyer since 1993, and worked at Meharry Medical College at Matthew Walker Comprehensive Healthcare Center. So healthcare, especially for those who are poor, who are indigent, who do not have health insurance or uninsured or underinsured, is my passion. And so when we had an opportunity in 2009 to look at Bordeaux and Knowles, and we realized that it was costing the city more than $10 million that we were losing as losses, we were trying to come up with a way that we can ensure successful patient care and delivery of health care for those patients, to take care of our employees, and to consider the taxpayers. But we could not come up with a solution at that time. However, in 2013 and 2014, with the administration working with the council and working with the private sector, they have been able to come up with a fantastic plan and with private partners that will ensure the delivery of high-quality health care for our patients and residents of both Bordeaux and Knowles. In fact, both the private parties that we have as partners will be able to invest and give capital so that they can improve the high quality of care. Not that our Metro employees have not done a great job, they have, but they've done a great job with limited resources because the city only has so much resources. These private entities will come and they will have an infusion of capital, and they will be able to even improve the quality of care for the patients. Second, we take care of our employees. As you are aware, many of you know that we could have simply sold the bed licenses and closed the door on both Bordeaux and Knowles. We could have simply taken the highest bid for those bed licenses, taken the cash and ran. But this administration, working with the council, said we will not do that. We want to make sure that our employees at Bordeaux and Knowles have the best deal that we can. So they insisted that one, Signature, one of our partners, will recognize SEIU, the union, and negotiate in good faith with them. Number two, that there may be a difference in the benefit package between the Metro benefit package and the private benefits package. So they compared and contrast what Metro pays and benefits and what Signature does, and they came up with a lump sum 1-year annual payment for those Metro employees so that they're not out of pocket. So that amount of money that the Metro employees will receive or the hospital authority employees will receive is the difference between the benefit of Signature and the benefit that Metro gives. Third, even though we could not get everybody a job to signature, we're looking at approximately 30 employees that may lose their job because of the overlapping responsibilities. But we've been assured by the CEO of the hospital authority, Mr. Riebling, and by signature that they are looking to place those employees so that those 30 employees who may lose their position can be placed at either the hospital or placed at Metro or placed at signature. Finally, regarding our taxpayers, the $10 million or $10.5 million that we've been losing every year at Bordeaux and Knowles. And it's only because 99% of the patients there, or all of them, are on Medicare and Medicaid, which means you're limited to how much money that you can actually receive for treatment. We will be able to ensure high quality of care, an infusion of capital, keep Bordeaux open, have Knowles open, keep an economic engine, a large employer there on site in that great Bordeaux community, allow the heritage and history to continue, and yet save taxpayers money. This is a win-win, and this is a great deal. John has done an awesome job with the analysis and seeing that for those persons who may not be able to keep their job, they will receive compensation. For those patients who are at Bordeaux can stay there. When the new facility is built near Skyline in Councilman Hunt's district, if they choose to go to Skyline area, they can, or they can choose to stay at Bordeaux. But the quality of care will not change to the adverse, but rather the quality of care will remain as high as it is today and may even improve. Finally, in my last couple of seconds, it has been good working with the administration on this. Again, I want to say, they could have taken the highest bid for the most amount of money they could have received for the bed licenses and simply closed the door. But they knew that that would be devastating to the Bordeaux community, and they did not do that. In my last comment, this will also allow us to focus on General Hospital for its sustainability and for the opportunity for us to focus on General and make it the best public safety net hospital in the country. With that, I hope that you all will vote in approval of this legislation. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilmember Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I stand in support of this legislation tonight. I agree with probably 99% of what my colleague to my left has stated tonight, and I won't repeat it. But I do want to make some important points that he did make, because there are several other factors to this proposal that makes it a positive proposal. Of course, this is located in District 1, it's located in my district, and I am one of the few council members that has the privilege of actually representing a district that he actually grew up in. I think myself and maybe my colleague, Councilman McGuire, can actually say that at this point in this council, and I'm very proud of that fact. And when I think about Councilman Davis, okay, I stand corrected.
I think we'll just go on.
Everyone wants to say they grew up where they represent now. Okay, but I take pride in being able to grow up in that community and see that community where I grew up and what it's becoming today and what it can be in the future. The developers that are part of this proposal have really committed to developing the campus of Bordeaux in a way that community can be very proud of. That community has really invested so much. This was a community that was heavily affected by the flood of 2010. That flood really brought the community and that neighborhood adjacent to the Bordeaux campus, brought that community together in a way that they have really worked over the past 4 years to build up that community. They have great momentum as they try to improve their community, and the developers have come in and they want to be a partner in improving the community and making this community a better place. There will be 300 to 400 acres that will be retained by Metro on the back half of the campus that will be retained for the Parks Department to develop a master plan that will be an extension of the Bordeaux Gardens Park. And also in between where we actually did a wildlife preservation on property on the opposite side of the Bordeaux campus. I know that there are some colleagues that think that this may not be the best proposal. and we may need to defer this, and we may need to think about it. I had the privilege of preceding Councilman Stein as the Chair of Budget and Finance. I could tell you tonight that Metro will not be in the long-term care business or the nursing home business for long. If we don't pass this tonight, we will not be in that business too much longer. We don't have the ability to sustain it. We don't have the ability to continue to finance it and run a safety net hospital in the same city for much longer. I would much rather see the services remain in Bordeaux, because there are a lot of my constituents or families of my constituents that actually stay on that campus as patients. I would much rather see jobs remain in that area instead of just being eliminated, and I would much rather see that campus develop to something that my community, my district can be proud of and that we can invest in going forward. So I ask for your support of this bill, and I do think that it's the best proposal that we're going to get.
Councilmember Tenpenny.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. You know, I stand in support of about 99% of this bill. The 1% that I can't grasp right now is what Metro is going to do with these employees. In our committee meeting, got kind of heated in our committee meeting. It seemed like the administration had several inputs from several different people. Our chairperson had several inputs that he wanted to put in. The SEIU, they had their inputs and everything, and it just seemed like everybody wasn't on the same page with this. And I had asked for a one meeting deferral until they could dot their I's and cross their T's on this legislation. I think it's good legislation, but good faith sometimes is not what good faith is. Sometimes good faith is, I'm sorry, but we couldn't do that. I'm sorry, but these employees are not going to have their jobs. We do have public employees that are at stake here, and we put a lot of burden on the public employees. They do a lot of work in the city of Davidson County and Nashville, and I just kind of like to see them protected some if we could. And right now, I don't see that 100% that 100% there. I was asking our director, Rich Rieblin, is Metro, is this a done deal with Metro? Have they signed their contracts? Is everything done, Rich? Rich or Sal?
Mr. Cooper. Oh.
The contracts have all been signed. It's just contingent upon council approval.
Okay. Well, considering what happened in committee tonight, I would ask for a deferral of one meeting, and the reason I'm expressing that is what happened in committee tonight.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Maynard.
Move to table that motion.
We have a motion and a second on the tabling motion. Councilmember Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The questions that were raised all had answers, and those answers were given in the contracts. The language in the contracts addresses it, and it's also in the analysis. One of the questions that came up in the committee that was answered is what will happen to the Metro employees. Answer is they will receive the same pay that they are receiving now. They will receive the same pay once we have approval, and then we have privatization of Knowles and Bordeaux. The other question is, how long will it be at Bordeaux? At least 10 years. Again, another answer to the question. Now, the one question that could not be answered, Vice Mayor, and I'm glad Councilman Tenpenny spoke about this, it was receded, is that the administration, working with Signature, which is our private partner, working with them, reflected the desires of the council that Signature recognize the union so that they can negotiate in good faith with each other. Vice Mayor, I support the unions. I've always supported unions. However, I cannot dictate, and I do not think that this body should dictate the outcome of those negotiations. I think in good faith, we can say we want you, Signature, as a private entity to recognize SEIU as its union representative, and then you guys go and negotiate. But to try to wait on this legislation to force their hands in negotiations, I don't think is good business sense, and we should not be in that business. So therefore, I'm asking for us to table that motion because that was the only outstanding issue, which we should not be in the business of doing.
Okay. Councilmember Tenpenny.
And before we do that, I mean, we were in committee tonight. We heard about the employees. They didn't know 100% of what they were going to do or how they were going to do with the employees. That's the whole reason for this deferral. If I had a straight answer and knew what was going on, and other of our colleagues had that information, I think we could go ahead and pass this. But I think we need to wait one meeting and make this a one-meeting deferral. In committee tonight, it was 5-4 in that committee to defer this. So I look again. I'm calling for the deferral tonight. Thank you.
We're on the tabling motion. All in favor of the tabling motion, please say aye. Opposed, no.
No.
We will need a machine vote. We're voting on Councilman Maynard's motion to table the motion for the deferral. If you do not want the deferral, vote for the tabling motion, or we will go back to the deferral motion. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the votes. Try again.
17 against, 0 abstentions.
The tabling motion passes. We're back to discussion on the main bill. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Previous question.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of previous question, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We'll do a machine vote. This is on previous question. Okay, we're resetting the machines. Hang on one second, since we've had 2 machine votes right in a row. We're going to go back to vote on the previous question motion. Are we ready to vote? Yes. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
I have 22 for, 15 against, 0 abstentions.
Previous question fails. Is there other discussion? Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, I was in committee this evening, and I, along with my colleague, Councilman Tenpenny, there are questions about the employees. You know, I just asked simple questions. I said, you know, a few years back, we took a lot of employees in the school system and we privatized them. We were told that they were going to get the same pay, which they did not. We told they were going to get the same benefits, which they did not. You know, we told their retirement, you know, was going to be the same. Well, they got the opportunity to participate and donate to a 401k program with their $14,000 to $18,000 a year salary. So we just asked those questions tonight. We couldn't get the answers in the committee. You know, we weren't allowed to ask signature any of those questions. Our committee process was stifled, and they weren't hard questions, ladies and gentlemen. And if this is such a good deal, it's not going anywhere. We're asking 2 weeks to get some basic answers. I mean, when is this body, it'd be different if this was like, you know, the General Assembly and you're only in session a couple of months a year and you've got to hurry and get things done. We meet year-round, ladies and gentlemen. We're in here every 2 weeks. But it seems like every big deal that comes in here, it's like if you don't take this used car sale tonight, the offer is going to be taken off the table next week. When are we going to get tired of that and get some questions answered? I mean, these were just basic answer questions about 282 of our city's employees. That's all we needed answered. The folks at Signature have had the contract for well over 3 weeks. All they had to do was sign it. Signing it didn't contractually obligate them to anything other than negotiations in the future. You know, my colleague of the front, you know, says we don't need to force and get involved in all the negotiations, but I've supported him on many times when we have a percentage of participation in a lot of contracts brought before this body, where we make sure certain people and certain business entities within this county are taken care of. Doesn't have a problem with that usually, and I support him every time he asks for that. We're asking for a simple answer to some questions about these folks' livelihood. I heard stories of people working since they were 16 years old and they're in their 50s now. They know nothing else except working in this facility. All of a sudden, is their life going to be turned upside down? I think the folks that we're giving it to, since, you know, we're more or less guaranteeing them no losses in the future for several years, I think that they'll stick around for 2 weeks so we can get some of these questions answered. So, you know, I would ask the sponsor, in all decency to the rest of this body, with the questions about these employees still lingering out there, he should want to defer this for one meeting to get these questions answered for these several hundred of our employees who've worked hard for several years at this facility. So with that being said, I'll defer to the sponsor.
We cannot do that. We've already voted. We've tabled the motion to defer, and it cannot be entertained again. We're back on the original bill. We're back on 2014-688. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
We'll have a machine vote. Madam Clerk, please close the machine and tally the vote.
Have 32 for, 3 against, and 2 abstentions.
The motion passes. Now we're on to 2014-689, authorizes Metro government to abandon retained easement rights for the former right-of-way of the old Ben Allen Road for properties located at 3803 Saunders Avenue and Hart Lane. Councilmember Bennett.
Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning voted to approve 689, 640 against.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works Committee approved 689, 640 against.
Councilmember Bennett.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-690 abandons retained easement rights in the former right-of-way of 45th Avenue North for property located at 4502 Illinois Avenue. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval.
I need a committee report from Councilman Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved 690 as amended, 640 against.
And one from Councilman Dominy.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Works approved 690, 640 against.
And I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-691 abandons easement rights retained in the former alley number 1017B for property located at Chester Avenue unnumbered. Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved Bill 691, 640 against.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works approves Bill 691, 640 against.
Councilmember Anthony Davis.
Move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-692 authorizes Metro government to abandon 1,500 linear feet of 6-inch public water main along with public fire hydrants and abandons an 8-inch public sewer main and all easement rights for properties located along George E. Davis Boulevard, Charlotte Avenue, Shanklin Street, and Nelson Mary Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved 692, 640 against.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works Committee approved 692, 6-4 and 0 against.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-693 authorizes Metro government to accept permanent and temporary easements for the Tulip Grove Road Stormwater Improvement Project for 4 properties located at 906 and 910 Tulip Grove Road and Tulip Grove Road unnumbered. Councilmember Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved 693, 640 against.
Councilmember Dominy.
Public Works Committee approved 693, 6-4 and 0 against.
Move approval.
Councilmember Glover. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-588 changes .57 acres from R6 to SP zoning for properties located within the Woodland and Waverly Historic Preservation District at 2107, 2111, and 2115 White Avenue to permit up to 8 residential dwelling units. Councilmember Moore.
Vice Mayor, I'm going to defer this one meeting only.
We have a motion and a second for a 1-meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2013-630 changes 1.34 acres from RS40 to SP zoning for properties located at 6030 and 6034 Sedberry Road to permit up to 8 single-family detached residential units. Councilmember Evans.
Committee reports. Report, I believe, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved Bill 630, 640 against.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans.
And with that, I move approval.
You have an amendment to
I'm sorry. I need to move the amendment. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say, do you need to speak on the amendment, Councilman Holloman?
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor. I just had one, question or maybe comment. Condition number 8 refers to hardy plank siding, just sort of a technical point, but that's a brand name, not an actual material. I just wonder if it'd be better to say cement fiber.
Without objection, the amendment could be modified to say cement fiber board.
Okay, I'd offer that suggestion because
Is there any objection? That change will be made. Any other discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilmember Evans.
Move the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-650 changes 6.1 acres from CS to RM20A zoning for properties located at 5701 Louisiana Avenue, 5701 California Avenue, and California Avenue unnumbered. Councilmember Baker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report, please.
Councilmember Hunt.
Planning and zoning approved Bill 650, 640 against.
Councilmember Baker.
There's a substitute on this bill, and I'd like for Mr. Cooper to explain, please.
If you will recall, at the public hearing on this bill, there were concerns from the neighbors about the fact that this was going to RM20A zoning instead of an SP. After the public hearing, the Councilmember Baker went to the developer, and the developer has agreed to an SP plan, which is in your packet. It gives a layout of the development as well as elevation of the building. The councilman met with 3 officers from the neighborhood association in the council office and with the developer and the developer's attorney Carrie Logan from the Planning Department and myself to go over the SP, and there appeared to be an agreement from those who were in attendance at that meeting. So this would substitute the bill from RM28 to SP.
We have a motion and a second on the substitute. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Substitute passes. Councilman Baker.
I'd like to move the bill as substituted.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-667 amends the Metro Code pertaining to the Fairgrounds Master Plan and appropriating $200,000 to the Board of Fair Commissioners from the reserve for the State Fair Subsidy account to the General Services District. Councilmember Moore.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-668 approves a memorandum of understanding between Metro Government and Belmont University to create a joint information center on the Belmont University campus in the event of a major disaster. Councilmember Stein.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-669 authorizes the Industrial Development Board to accept payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes for affiliates of HCA Holdings, Inc., including Parallon Business Solutions, LLC, Health Trust Purchasing Group, LP, and Saracana Holdings, LLC. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If all committee reports are in, I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
With a brief
Opposed, no.
explanation.
What?
I said with a brief explanation.
Okay, sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. I just want to say I'm really excited about this development, HCA moving between Charlotte and Joe Johnston. I think it will bring some wonderful economic development to the area. For many years, these parcels of land have remained empty, and so we're really excited about it, and I look forward to them beginning their construction in the 2015-2016 year. And I renew my motion for
We have
approval.
a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-671 amends the Geographic Information System street and alley and centerline layer by abandoning the right-of-way and easements for portions of Gay Street, Shanklin Street, and alley number 359. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All committee reports in. I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2014-672 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 63 right-of-way. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. All committee reports in. I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.